What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbein, joined always by my main man, Jacob Punturi. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talkers. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, we remain quiet, but there is plenty of noise. And the one guy that asked, hey, can you not talk about me for a couple of weeks? Well, we're talking about him bright and early on this Friday, but we're not the ones bringing him up. A Pittsburgh Steelers legend is, and he's got a pretty interesting, pretty out there theory on what could happen to the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback room this season. Meanwhile, it is quiet, but there are moves that could still be made for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we've got a fun one for you today. I'm excited to bring a little game your way on this Friday morning, Jacob. I know that you know something's coming, but you don't know what's coming, and I'm very excited to bring it to you. It's a good one here in the city of Pittsburgh. Rained for the first time in what felt like years yesterday, but it's all right. You know what they say? You need a little rain. Need a little rain. Rain's a good thing. How you feeling, my friend?
Let the rain fall down and wash my dreams. I'm feeling good, buddy. Happy Friday. I'm pumped separately because this is the first round of the NHL draft is tonight. So,
Yes.
You know, for any of my hockey fans, big things on the horizon for the Penguins tonight. But outside of that, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like I had to close my eyes before we started recording. I want everyone to know because Noah did not want me to see what he has planned for me for this game later on. So I'm excited about that. Was a little nervous as well. But I'm also excited to talk about what a legend of the Pittsburgh Steelers had to say, which I was just catching up on before we started recording as well.
Yes, yeah, the Aaron Rodgers is a wild time. I am excited to play this game. It's a good one. For those of you who are addicted to social media and TikTok, I don't want to say such as I am, because to be honest with you, I don't have TikTok. I don't have Instagram. Like, I go on Instagram about twice a year to make sure that I check my messages. And when I go on, I went on the other day to share some pictures from the wedding, and take a guess at how many DMs I had. Take a guess. I'll give you a hint. It's in the hundreds. Plural.
I was going to say at least triple digits. I'm going to say 310.
They're very close, actually. I had about 340 DMs in my Instagram alone. It was wild because it just says like 99 plus. And I was like, well, I got to count these because I have nothing else to do. And it was a good time. It's wild. It's wild. So I apologize if I don't hit you up on there because I had ones from like old friends and stuff I didn't even click on. I was like, nah, we can't do this. But anyways, for those of you who are addicted to social media, you're going to know what's coming and it's going to be a good time. Let's start with Aaron Rodgers and James Harrison, who was on the Nightcap podcast hosted by TJ Houshmandzadeh, Who's Your Mama, for those of you who grew up in the Bengals era there. He had an interesting theory on how the Pittsburgh Steelers season could go and what could come of it if they start to lose. The Pittsburgh Steelers obviously are rocking with Aaron Rodgers this season. They are expecting the best, seeing what happens. It's the end of the road of you gotta just rock with the veteran quarterback that you have, and then you go from there and so on and so forth. However, if things go south, James Harrison sees an outcome this season that I don't think many people have on their Steelers bingo card. And that's this quote: I think that they can make it work if they're winning. If they start losing and it's looking like they ain't going to make it above 500, I think it gets real ugly real fast, to the point of they may just be like, you know what? Let's let this dude go mid-season. For Aaron, it's just get him out of here and put one of those other quarterbacks in. Aaron Rodgers getting cut, I will bring up last year when it was about this time, and we are in the abyss. There isn't much happening, and you need to make some noise somewhere, somehow. Last year, not once, not twice, I believe 3 times, I personally was told to write a story about how someone predicted that the Pittsburgh Steelers would at some point cut Russell Wilson during the season. At one point, it was during training camp, which, I mean, wild times to be cut during training camp. Didn't happen. Obviously, he played no matter what. Justin Fields played a little bit. Aaron Rodgers is the guy this year. I mean, wild theory, unless you feel otherwise. I mean, in the worst of the worst situations, would it even be a consideration from the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin specifically, because he's the guy that's going to make that call, and we all know how stubborn he is?
Listen, I want to be 100% straightforward about this. There is no chance that Aaron Rodgers gets cut during the 2025 season outside of something horrific, some sort of personal conduct policy violation, something that is like, unheard of. Poor performance alone, going 1-5, any sort of combination of losses guarantees that nothing will happen. Aaron Rodgers, even if he performs at his absolute worst, will still probably be starting for the Pittsburgh Steelers and will absolutely still be on the team. So as much as I would like to think, and I really appreciate you pointing out the Russ comparisons from last year, because there was noise going into training camp just surrounding the position again, and this does feel kind of like the abyss calling in some ways. But yeah, I think there is zero chance. I think the only situation that happens is if we found out that Aaron Rodgers had committed mass murder.
Oh gosh.
Like that's like, to be so crazy. Like it's not like he threw 6 interceptions in the first 3 games, so they're gonna just cut him. Like that won't happen.
You have to look at the situation around him. Mason Rudolph is the backup quarterback. The Pittsburgh Steelers don't have a sweet spot for Mason Rudolph. They have we don't really trust you for Mason Rudolph. Will Howard's the guy after that. I think it would take a tornado that wiped out all of Pittsburgh except for Will Howard for Will Howard to start a game in 2025. I just don't think that at any point the Pittsburgh Steelers would even consider it. And on top of that, Mike Tomlin's the head coach. So that's the realistic part of this. It's fun to say what could happen and what would cause it and all this stuff. The realistic part of this is Mike Tomlin made a commitment 3.5 months ago, that Aaron Rodgers was going to be the starting quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2025. The minute that he did that, nobody else was given any shot. It's over. It's done with. At this point, it's fun. We're having a good time. But at the same time, Mason's not a real starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Will Howard is a rookie. They're not even going to give him an opportunity, even if things went south. It is Aaron Rodgers, fight you out of here. And then the second part of this is, unless I'm wrong, okay? And I have too high hopes for a guy like Aaron Rodgers. I don't know. I find it so hard to believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers with Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Russell Wilson, and Justin Fields are somehow going to have a better outcome with a stretch of games that was the worst stretch of games I've ever seen in my entire life than Aaron Rodgers' pretty decent schedule and a team that is certainly improved from a year ago. Like, is it just me? Am I too optimistic? But I find it so hard for the Pittsburgh Steelers to be at any point this season going into the final stretch saying, we're about to finish under 500 for the first time in 20 years. We're about to finish under 500 with a decent defense, good running game, a developing offensive line, DK Metcalf, and a guy that, with the Jets won 5 games, but I've seen a lot of quarterbacks go to the Jets and win 5 games. Pittsburgh, it seems to be the opposite of this. I just don't is there any, maybe I'm being too optimistic in this situation.
Well, no, my friend, I will certainly be honest and say that I think you are maybe too optimistic in general about the Steelers, but I'm also probably too pessimistic about the Steelers in general. So, there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of confidence and maybe a little bit of overconfidence in them. That being said, your logic is 100% accurate here. Like, if the Steelers could manage to be a 500 team or a wild card team with Mitch Trubisky at quarterback and Kenny Pickett taking over and anyone else, God knows who else under center. Yeah, I find it very unlikely that they will enter the last few weeks of the season, 6-8, 6-9, trying to fight for the last few weeks just to get to 500. I think they're going to be right around the playoff race again. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be the quarterback while that is happening. And to suggest that it is not going to happen, excuse me, would just be a total sort of deviation from how the Steelers have operated for the past decade. Yes, we are all frustrated with it not being enough and no Super Bowl coming out of it, but they are a perennial playoff team regardless. So
yes.
I don't, yeah.
You just can't look at them in any other light until proven otherwise. Like, I'm just sorry, but Aaron Rodgers is, if it was, again, like Will Howard, if it was Mason Rudolph, if it's even Russ again, to be totally honest, like, you could look at it and go, things could go real south real fast. Things could get really bad. There's nothing about Aaron Rodgers that I sit here and go, I don't know, man. If the Steelers don't look at Aaron Rodgers as a superhero, which they don't want him to be the savior, which they don't. They're going to rely on the running game, which is improved, the defense, which is improved, and just how they play football. And they're going to get worse. I don't know. Doesn't add up in my eye. Do I think they're Super Bowl contenders? No. Do I think that Aaron Rodgers gets cut by week 9? No. Now, that being said, the drama would be wild. And I mean, sometimes I'm all about the drama. If we're going to be honest, I'm a little bit of a dramatic human being, and I'm very much so okay with it from time to time. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yes.
In your eyes, okay, and we won't give this too much attention. In your eyes, what is the wild scenario that would need to happen for this to become true?
Man, it is genuinely difficult for me to imagine a scenario like that playing out in my head. Can I offer a slight variation?
Yeah,
and I think the one concern that feels slightly plausible is that the wheels fall off the train, fall off the car, so to speak, for Aaron Rodgers. If there is a situation where he suddenly becomes a turnover machine for whatever reason, say they go into the season, we talked about how much control should Aaron Rodgers have. Say they do give him that control, and the first 6 weeks of the season are lots of turnovers, however they come, fumbles, interceptions. I can see a situation where they are under 500 at that point, and there is a very strong consideration to switch the starting quarterback. That's as far as I can get my mind to go, to be quite honest, is like, how badly does he have to perform until Mason Rudolph comes in, or until Will Howard is given a chance? Not, can he play so poorly and be so much of a distraction that the Steelers would rather just be done with him by the middle of the season? Because at the end of the day, Mike Tomlin would not have put 4 months of constant communication, relationship building, coaching tactics really into Aaron Rodgers just to give up on him before Christmas.
I agree.
And so it's hard for me to even get there. Do you think there's anything realistic that I could just poke holes in?
No, there's nothing realistic. If we were going to just like toss out a fun, not so fun reality here, like, it would just be exactly what you said. The guy's thrown 15 interceptions by Christmas, and it's bad. The Pittsburgh Steelers are, 2-3 games under 500, and Aaron Rodgers is clearly the problem. But to be honest, like, Russ was a problem last year and they didn't do anything about it. So I just think that the stubbornness is real with Mike Tomlin. And it would be, now that being said, I don't expect bad things from Aaron Rodgers. But shout out to James Harrison, man, because he thinks that it's going to get crazy real fast. And if it does, he is the only one that's called it so far to this point, which I'm a big fan of. All right.
I'll also give him credit real quick before we move on that he did say, winning covers all the BS. So
yeah, which it does.
He gave himself a nice little comfortable caveat there where, like, say the Steelers go 5-0, he's like, winning covers it all up, man. And that's Debo,
who cares?
Baby.
Who cares? Yeah, that is Steve-O. He played with Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell. The guy knows drama. You know what I mean? He was Martavis Bryant was around at points. I mean, like, the guy knows what's going on in a locker room. He went through the Todd Haley, like, he's been through the Bruce Arian, like, he's been through the drama of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He knows. The guy knows. Sometimes you just gotta win football games, and everything's just fine. All right, we're gonna play a fun game here on a Friday before we answer everybody's questions and have a good time. It's quiet right now. There's not a lot of news going on, but there is an offseason ahead of us for the Pittsburgh Steelers. There is a month of questions and possibilities and different outcomes that could happen for the Steelers, some things that need to happen, some things that we hope happen, and all the above. So for those of you who have not followed the TikTok, YouTube trend of pick a team, you got X amount of dollars and you have to create this situation, that's what we're going to do here. Jacob, you have $15. With that $15, I need you to create the perfect outcome for the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. We'll go category by category. Remember, you got $15 and you don't know what's going to come. So I'm excited to see what you got going on here. We're going to start with wide receiver. It's the perfect offseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers. You got to buy one. Who you going out to get? Tyreek Hill's $5. Chris Olave is $4. Romeo Doubs is $3. Gabe Davis, $2. And Amari Cooper coming off the couch of their retirement home for $1. What you going with? You got $15.
Ooh, okay. Now I get why I couldn't see this earlier.
Yes.
That makes complete sense. Wow. The perfect Steelers offseason. You have to spend to earn big, and you got to go out and spend that $4 early and go after New Orleans Saints wide receiver Chris Olave. Yes, it's a heavy expenditure early into the session. I understand that, and I accept the consequences afterwards. Having a number 2 wide receiver like Chris Olave will fill in a lot of the other gaps, and maybe we can go bargain hunting in some other categories because of that.
You're gonna have to spend a solid $4 on the thing. You got $9 left and 3 more categories to pick from.
11.
$11 left, excuse me, and 3 more categories. Chris Olave is, a great pick here. Great pick. What? Let me ask you, between the two above, the one above, the one below here, Tyreek Hill's $5. You're not feeling him?
No, that is a Maserati price that I'm not willing to pay right now. I was almost going to make a very insulting comparison, and I won't do it, but I don't want to pay Maserati prices for Tyreek Hill. Romeo Doubs does always trip me up because I do think he would just be a very solid fit as the wide receiver 2 behind DK Metcalf. That being said, we're talking perfect Steelers offseason, not good, satisfactory, perfect. $4 is worth it here.
All right. I like it. Big addition here. Chris Olave is on the board. Jacob's got $11 left. We're moving on. Step 2 here, the perfect Pittsburgh Steelers offseason defensive addition that they got to make. You got $5. You go out, you get Jalen Ramsey. $4. Say, hey, screw it. Cincinnati, Trey Hendrickson, come on over. Mike Hilton comes home at $3. Arthur Millette comes home at $2. $1. You say, screw it, we're not making any additions. We're just going to let Beanie Bishop, Dante Kent battle it out, and we're going to rock what we have going into the season.
This is good that you put this one number 2, because this is a make or break one right now for me.
It is.
Listen, Jalen Ramsey for $5 seems like way too expensive. It kind of gives me the Tyreek Hill vibes where I'm like, ooh, there is a perfect, he would make so much sense for the Steelers in terms of just like dream perfect additions. $5. I don't know if I could do that. Trey Hendrickson, I love you, but I can't go for the $4 either. I'm going to take a $3. I'm going to go ahead and just get out 3 nice singles for you. I'm going to call up former slot cornerback of the Steelers, Mike Hilton, and say, hey, we loved what you've done since you left the organization. Come on back. Let's do some great things again. Pressure the quarterback, force some fumbles, get some interceptions, disrupt people at the line. All that for $3? Come on now.
31 years old. I agree with you. Arthur Millette would be, to be honest with you, I think Arthur Millette's an undervalued name on the free agency market. I don't think he brings a ton, but he's a special teams guy who can make it work. He's a hard hitter in the run game. He's probably a liability at this point in the pass game, but I liked Arthur Millette in Pittsburgh. I thought he was better than people gave him credit for. Mike Hilton, though, I agree with you. You could have went with a sound $5 on Jalen Ramsey, though. Who's your close number 2 on this list?
And this is a very close number 2, maybe to your surprise, but I would have gone for the $1 option between Beanie and Dante Kent, because again, these, I understand there is a cost for premium players, and there are 2 elite players on this list for defensive additions, so they would cost a pretty penny. But I think, especially when we're talking about Arthur Millette, like I think he would just be within the competition between Beanie Bishop and Dante Kent, and he wouldn't really be a difference maker between the 3 of them. So I wouldn't see a point there. But I think, there is a very small chance that I have to concede that Beanie Bishop fine tunes and improves upon what got him benched at the end of the 2024 season.
Agreed.
And if that happens, then there is not really or less of a need to bring in a bigger player or more accomplished player for the slot cornerback position.
I like it.
I don't think that's going to happen. I'd rather bring in Mike Hilton. So I'm going to go $3 here, bring in Mike H back to the Stillers.
I like it. All right, we're moving on here to position battles. You got $5. You're letting QB2 play out. Will Howard versus Mason Rudolph, which if James Harrison's right, that means that at some point, the winner of this battle, I mean, they're coming into a starting role. But really what's fun about position battles is getting to watch them. And that is Will Howard versus Mason Rudolph. Could be a showdown that fans and ourselves might love. $4. You got the running back field versus Cordero Patterson for RB4. I'm talking field versus Cordero. $3. A little fullback competition going on in Pittsburgh. DJ Thomas Jones versus Connor Hayward to say who you got in this one. $2. For linebacker 1, a sleeper, I think. Patrick Queen versus Peyton Wilson to say who is going to be linebacker 1, 3 down, every down guy. And for $1, once again, Beanie Bishop versus Dante Kent. Because
Nice.
to be honest, you got to keep him in there. And while I wanted to go $3, I felt that DJ Thomas Jones versus Connor Hayward held a little place in my heart that I had to make him $3.
I accept the sentimentality there. And I think it's a very important position battle. And if it becomes more important and if it becomes a focus during training camp, all the better, because having a fullback be a more permanent part of the offense, I think will only benefit Rodgers, Arthur Smith's plans, DK Metcalf's productivity. I think it's all could be beneficial. That being said, having the number 1 linebacker competition be a 4-for-4 biggie bag value right now at $2, like I'm not suggesting that Peyton Wilson will assume the number 1 middle linebacker position over Patrick Queen with training camp or by having a specifically good performance at training camp. But if he is playing that well and he is taking reps maybe away or just making the coaching staff consider it, oh my gosh, because that just tells me nothing bad about Patrick Queen. That tells me so much about the development of Peyton Wilson going into year 2. And that is a huge implication for the defense and sort of how stabilized the middle of it can be going into this season and beyond. So if you're telling me that I can get a very healthy competition between those 2 excellent inside linebackers for $2,
$2.
Put it down.
I love it. I think Peyton Wilson's got a real shot to become the guy in Pittsburgh, but I'm going to be really honest with you. I think Patrick Queen is the guy in Pittsburgh, and I just think that he needed an adjustment year, and I have a lot of expectations for what he could become. As we go into this last one, you've got $9 used. You've got $6 remaining with only a $5 limit here. So I'll let you pick 2 of them to close this one off. And then we're heading into the miscellaneous. Okay. The things the Steelers need to do for $5. I mean, the one we're all waiting for without question. And I was kind of hoping that you put yourself in a pickle, but you didn't do it. You left yourself room to work here. Sign TJ Watt today. Income, whatever amount of money the guy wants, you give it to him because TJ Watt is worth every single penny. For $4, you find a true slot corner, no questions asked. This dude's a dog. You have just finished your defense. For $3, you make one more trade of your choice. You go out and there are no implications here. You go out and make a trade. You get whoever you want. No, $2, you find a swing tackle because the Pittsburgh Steelers need a swing tackle. And for $1, You put Mike T on the hot seat and you say, hey, you got to win a playoff game, my friend. A couple of them, to be really honest, because this team this year looks too good to be garbage. You got $6 remaining. I'll let you go 2 if you want to go 2. 5-1 looks a little tough, to be honest with you. I'll let you make the call here.
Listen, you can keep your extra $1 if you take the $5 to get TJ Watt signed today. Are there other needs here that you listed? 125%. There are deficiencies on this roster. There is no denying it. I am not saying that there aren't, and that is not the case. This team is not a Super Bowl contender right now, but they will be much, much closer to being one if they have a happy and extended TJ Watt.
Yes.
Than if they go out and find a replacement for Dylan Cook or Calvin Anderson, or if they sign, whoever to be their slot cornerback, or if they go out and get a Chris Olave. Yes, those are all good moves. I would love to see the Steelers upgrade in multiple ways. Signing the best edge rusher in football today is the perfect way to just kind of coast into the rest of the abyss for the Steelers offseason. Everyone comes in happy, rejuvenated, supported for training camp. And then there you go. Bing, bang, boom. You're set. So you can keep your extra $1. I don't want to even put Mike T on the hot seat yet, especially if they get TJ Watt signed. Once the season begins, some pressure begins to build. Performances, dictate whether he should be on the hot seat for sure. But I just want my best player signed.
Would you, and I'll open this one up to you. Would you, because you really only have 2 choices, would you use your extra $1 on adding Amari Cooper to the mix as well? Or a Beanie Bishop versus Dante Kent position battle? That really means something in Pittsburgh this year.
That is a great question, Noah. I think with my one little extra $1 I got here, I would prefer that there is a meaningful position battle between Dante Kent and Beanie Bishop, and that has to truly be meaningful, not just they both performed well on one day of training camp, and then so they each get to start 8 games or whatever. It has to truly be they are impact players. They are making a difference. They are standing out compared to the other cornerbacks in the room, not just at the slot position battle. So if that actually happened, we've then at that point we've gotten a number 2 wide receiver in Chris Olave. We've gotten TJ Watt extended. We've gotten a meaningful position battle at cornerback.
True.
That's what else are we missing for a perfect Steelers offseason?
I think we're having a great Steelers offseason with this one. I think I agree with you. I think I'd go Chris Olave. I think I'd go the defensive one. I think is where you stump me a little bit. To be honest, I like Mike Hilton. I might spend some bucks and walk into that with Jalen Ramsey, if we're going to be really honest. And then I think at the position battles, I might just go Beanie Bishop, Dante Kent, and then I'm signing TJ Watt all day long. I like it though. I like it a lot. Let's before we head out of this one, macaroni salad's got to go in here. $4 for Chris Olave, $1 Beanie Bishop versus Dante Kent, $1 Beanie Bishop versus Dante Kent, $2 for a swing tackle, $7 in the pocket there to go and buy yourself some Vodka Sonics. I hope
that's why you leave the cushion. That's why you leave the cushion there, so you can go ahead and get a couple Vodka Sonics.
That's exactly what it is. We might have to continue these ones, to be honest with you. This was a good time. I appreciate you participating, my friend. And with that, that's everything on our agenda. We're going to start diving into all your guys' questions to close out this Friday. Start tossing them in the chat. We'll get to them as soon as we come back.
Pittsburgh, this one's for you. From the voices behind all Steelers talk comes Black and Gold apparel, your go-to for bold, fan-driven merch that reps the city, the Steelers, and everything in between. Whether you bleed black and gold or just love that Pittsburgh grit, we've got something for you. It's more than a podcast. It's a community. And thanks to your support, we're proud to bring the passion from our mics to your closets. Gear up, stand out, and show the world what real fans look like. Shop now at blackandgoldapparel.myshopify.com.
All righty. Shout out to our members. Shout out to our super chatters. Can't thank you guys enough. I know it's a quiet Friday morning. We are entering into the nothing. To be honest with you, this is the time of year where you talk to other content creators and you just kind of ask the same questions of, hey, you also have nothing to talk about, right? And everybody says yes. And you go, okay, good. As long as I'm not letting everybody down, we're having a good time, to be really honest. Start tossing your questions in the chat. We'll get to as many of them as we can before we head out of here. Nate Moore is going to kick this one off. Is it fair to assume the Steelers defense will improve next season? Last season, they were tied for last in the takeaway category. Weird, considering the coach emphasizes this statistic so much. They do emphasize the statistic a ton. The problem is that when Dante Jackson and then Beanie Bishop were your turnover machines, that is not where you need your turnovers from. You need TJ Watt for some turnovers. You need Minka Fitzpatrick out there doing some stuff. I'll say this. They didn't do anything in my eyes to say that they're going to add to that margin, because Dante Jackson was their leader in interceptions last season, and they replaced him with Darius Slay, who outside of last season has never had a blank stat on the interception category except for last year. But you win a Super Bowl. Who the hell cares? I don't expect it to get better, but I do expect it to have an opportunity to get better. They got it. I think it relies heavily on this one, on TJ and Minka Fitzpatrick. If both of those guys could start creating turnovers, kind of find their balance once again, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are in for an improved season. I don't want to say a big year, because I have big expectations for the Steelers defense, but I also want to see them first. But I do think it's cause for an improvement in that category.
Yeah, agreed. I don't foresee a huge improvement, or I wouldn't predict a huge improvement in takeaways. But the one area that I do feel confident in predicting they will improve, or expecting them to improve, is in their run defense. And again, we talked about it a few times here. They were already a decent run defense, just in like average rushing yards allowed per game in 2024. But if they can finish more plays, and if they can, incorporate Derek Harmon and Y.E. Black, if Peyton Wilson takes a step, I think their front seven is going to be considered, among the top 5. That is sort of where I want to see the improvement come. If turnovers and more takeaways come from that, excellent. But if I see consistent, top 5 rushing defense, I consider that a huge win.
I agree. I think the Steelers' run defense was the focus this offseason, just like you said, and they could win that way. You know what I mean? You shut down the run game. I told the story of Mike Hilton a couple of days ago on here. You want to know what he continued to say to me every single week was, yeah, just got to shut down the run game, and then it goes from there. All right, cool. Maybe that means something, but I think it does mean a lot to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I do think that's their biggest need for improvement this offseason, not necessarily turnovers. You could still win the turnover game and have a smaller margin, just a more successful offense, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. John Burnett here. Have you been to Chicago before, and how long do you get to stay for away games that you cover? I will be in Chicago this year. I hope so, as long as everything goes as planned. Never been to Chicago when I remember. Was there when I was like a kid, but I'm a big Chicago guy. Like everybody, I've never met anybody who says anything bad about Chicago. Everybody loves Chicago. I'm excited to get out there. You're in and out. You fly in on Saturday morning, you fly out on Monday right after the podcast. So it's a quick little adventure during the season, but it's a good time, and I'm excited to get out there. I'm guessing, John, you're from Chicago. Me and my wife will be out there. I believe she wants to come to Chicago. So I said, yeah, dude, you buy your plane ticket, you come to Chicago. You have a good time. So we'll see what happens. I'm all about it.
Do you like Caleb Williams? I know this is not a Bears podcast, but I kind of think he's like kind of a loser. Like, is that wild to say?
Loser stuff.
I saw a video of him chanting or joining in a chant of like F the Packers in like a recent game or something that he attended.
Yeah.
And the first thing I thought was, that's kind of loser stuff.
Yeah, Keaton Slovis always comes to my mind when he jumped in on the like F West Virginia chance. And I'm like, dude, you've been here for like a week and a half, bro. And then you bailed. Like, yeah, I
gotta
don't,
be first before you do that stuff. Like they were.
yeah, that's my thing is you got to be good. You know what I mean? You got to earn it. Like Aaron Rodgers saying like he owns Chicago. That was 10 years in the making.
Right. And it was true.
It was true.
Caleb Williams in year 2 being like F the Packers when he was like, were they what 0-2 against them last year or 1-1? I don't even know. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know. I think Caleb has a ton of talent, but I also I think some guys are a little bit overhyped coming into the NFL. And I was a big Jaden Daniels guy. So I think that skews it, but I don't know. I've never met him. I try to keep it that. I've never met him. Heard at practice here. Noah, what's your $15 picks from this list? I'll say it again. Chris Olave at $4. Easy. Jalen Ramsey at $5 is my pick at corner. Sorry, got to do it. The position battle I want to watch is Beanie Bishop versus Dante Kent, although that means nothing with Jalen Ramsey, but who cares? I'll have a good time with it anyways. I got to waste $1 somewhere. And for the final one, I'm signing TJ today, my friend. I don't think there's any question about whether he's worth all the money. Pay him all the money. I believe that's $15 right there. I don't got any money left over for some Vaca Sonics. That's all right. That's all right. We'll keep it trucking here. We'll keep it trucking. Maddie, why didn't we trade up last year for a quarterback? How do people know if quarterbacks are going to be good? NFL and college are two different areas. Will Howard was projected to be a first rounder at 1 point. I think last year, the answer to that question is that the Steelers really wanted to finish their offensive line. They were pretty sold on finishing their offensive line, which I think is very important. I think it's honestly like the most important thing you could do besides get a quarterback is finish your trenches. So I think that's where they were headed in that direction. They already had Russ. I believe they already had Justin at that time as well. And they felt pretty okay about the quarterback room. They didn't really have to go out and make a splash. So it's much different circumstance from, not having a quarterback and feeling the pressure to move up. I think they've learned in those 2 years. I think quarterbacks could change. I expect the rankings and who's good and who's not good to change pretty dramatically, to be honest, over the next 6-7 months. And I'm not going to guarantee anything, but I do feel very confident just talking to people, you know what I mean? And I understand that maybe not everybody wants that to happen, but I do feel confident talking to sources that the Pittsburgh Steelers have their eyes on next year's draft class, and they feel pretty confident in the situation that will be presented to them. So I just think it's circumstance. I think that they wanted a trench guy. They wanted to finish their offensive line. And at the same time, they had Russ, and they felt pretty okay about what Russ was going to do and the possibility that they could have with him.
Yeah. The frustrating thing, Maddie, is like there's not a good answer, and there is no answer for how do people know our quarterback's going to be good in the NFL. Exactly. They have confidence, they make their, evaluations, and these scouts are accurate, majority of the time, right? So you trust the reliability of what they're saying, but they don't know at the end of the day. That's the frustrating part. And it's a year by year sort of case by case basis where they say, well, this need feels more pressing or more important. And right now, the consensus around all of the big minds of college football is that this 2026 class is epically talented in a way that others weren't. So it's a frustrating thing whenever there is a player that you see more value in than maybe he's being given credit for. But it's a circumstantial thing that is incredibly frustrating because, I was one of the people who said Will Howard could be a first round pick because I thought the need sort of dictated it. But at the same time, the Steelers' evaluation and their priorities are often very different from mine. So,
yeah, I agree. The Steelers' priorities are always a little bit, but I understand where they're coming from at this point, which is why I kind of trust Omar Khan, because where he stands in building the trenches, maybe people will say that's Andy Weidel. You could have bad quarterbacks and still find success in if you have good trenches. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And there will always be quarterbacks that are coming out, and you just gotta find them. Shout out to John Burnett here. Brother, write this down. Chicago Pizza and Oven Grinder Company. It will change your life. And Pittsfield Diner, great place. Write it down, right down the street from the stadium. Chicago Pizza. And what? Chicago Pizza and Oven Grinder. All right. And then Pittsfield Diner. I'm all about it, man. Look at. I'll tell you this. When I go to other places, everybody asks, like, what do you like to do? I like to walk the streets and find the dirtiest looking food I could find and say, I'm eating there, pal. I'm eating right there. Me and my wife during our little extravaganza in New York, we're just walking around and it literally looked like a shack. And I said, yo, we're going to eat in there. And she was like, really? Best food I think I've ever had in my life. You know what I mean? Like steak that wanted to make me cry. That's how good it was. So shout out. I appreciate you, John. I appreciate you. Rex 7 here. Jacob, you funny shit, my boy. The biggie bag thing killed me. Hey, Noah, what did you see so far this offseason from Roman that's worth giving him a chance as wide receiver 3? I think Roman looked a lot faster from a year ago, but I also think that he was dealing with an injury in the ankle last year, dealt with some hamstring stuff, so he was pretty slow out of his cuts. You just saw that he wasn't 100%. This year, he looks fast. He looks bigger, to be honest. He definitely looks bigger, which I think is good for him. I want to see his route running improve, but I think his speed is where the Steelers want it to be. I think his attention to detail is where the Steelers want it to be. To be honest with you, I think the effort is where the Steelers want it to be. I think last year he came in here and he didn't really look great during OTAs and mini camp, came to training camp, looked good for a day or two, and then got hurt. And by the time he came back, the Steelers were moved on. This year, he's really looking at it saying, I got to prove something to these guys. I have an opportunity to prove something to these guys. I'm going to see if I could do it. So I would say the size and the speed is what stands out for Roman so far. And I really do think that he's got, like, everybody will talk wide receiver trade all offseason long, but Jacob's argument here, we show up into training camp and Roman's the best guy on the field. You're not making a wide receiver trade. You know, you feel pretty good about where you stand. So I would say his speed and his size is what stood out to me at minicamp. I don't know if you feel any different.
I don't feel much differently. I think really what it comes down to is because he's healthy, they are able to see these things that they saw in him whenever they drafted him in 2024 in the 3rd round. And that is, again, good footwork, tenacious. You know, he's willing to engage, like he wants to run block. He's willing to match up with a defender. And for him to be just in the mix at all shows promise. And I think that is the same sort of promise that he showed coming out of the University of Michigan, and that made him sort of an exciting prospect. So I'm not sold on him being like a true wide receiver 3, but I am sold on giving him a shot if he's healthy, which he has shown progressions along the way. So I'm excited to see what training camp brings for him.
I agree. He's the guy I have my eyes on at training camp, outside Aaron Rodgers, obviously, but I think he's the most important piece to where the Steelers go next during this summer. Rex Evans got another one going to get just a half tier better. A better receiver will put us at least in a slightly better position than just going into the season with only Roman and Calvin. And I do trust Calvin. Roman is a little shaky. I agree with this. Like, I think if Roman doesn't look like an absolute stud, and that's the thing, is you could have Calvin look like an absolute stud, you still have to go get another wide receiver. If Roman looks like an absolute stud, there's an argument. But if Roman doesn't look like a guy who's a guaranteed number 2, not a number 3, if Roman doesn't look like your number 2 wide receiver, because Calvin Austin's good, but your slot guy can't be your number 2. Not in this offense. You know what I mean? Like, you can't have DK Metcalf, and then if DK gets hurt, it's Calvin and nobody on the outside. You have to have another outside option. If Roman looks like your number 2, awesome. You have an argument not to go get somebody else. If Roman doesn't look like your number 2, you have to, like, it. I don't know if Amari Cooper is the answer. I don't know if Keenan Allen's the answer, but I think other guys will become available, and I think you have to go get somebody at that point. I think Roman is the X factor here on deciding what you need this summer. I know you're big keep the guys as they are thing. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, I think Roman being the X factor is really the key here because he is the most unknown. He is the one that there is the most question marks. Yes, we all expect Calvin Austin to take a step forward offensively, and I think we can all agree that he has improved and he looks like a better receiver, year in, year out. Roman Wilson could come in and just look like an absolute starter. We genuinely do not know how he will match up once training camp begins. It's nice to just see him around, but yeah, I'm not sure if he has the trust of the coaching staff beyond just showing that he has the athletic tools on the field. I mean, we heard I don't know like what more you reported on this last year, but like was there confirmation 100% that in addition to him recovering from injury, like his just like inability to like I forget what the wording I would see was, but like he like didn't understand the playbook or didn't have the
Yeah.
playbook down. Like, was that a legitimate? Did you hear confirmation from sources about that, or was that just sort of like some hearsay about reasons he was kept away from the team at the end of last year?
Yeah, Nate Moore asked about that, and I think it's a good
Of course,
way
of
to
course.
transition here. I want to like I
Hmm.
heard it. Yes. How by the end of the season, I think just putting pieces together, I don't think it played as big of a role as we made it seem, as everybody made it seem. I truly think that the Steelers looked at it and said, dude, you're not 100%. It's week 15. You're a rookie. You didn't go through any training camp. You essentially had 9 days of practice between now and week 15. Like, we can't trust you in a game where we're fighting for the playoffs. Like we're in a 5-game slump. I don't think the Steelers looked at, I think on the outside, people looked at it and said the Steelers need all options. Doesn't matter who you are. I think the Steelers looked at it and said, we need our best options because we've just lost 4 games in a row. Roman's not our best option because the guy's got 9 days of practice under his belt. So I think that played a bigger role into it than not knowing the playbook. I did hear those things, and I didn't just hear rumors. Like I heard those things. I don't think it played as significant of a role as at the time we wanted to make it seem. But I also think that you go into this offseason, it's different, like it's Roman spent the first half on IR, then he got hurt again, and he was spending the second half on IR. And then by the time he was ready to go, it was week 15, and the playbook has changed a bunch of times and so on and so forth. This year, he's got a full summer to learn the playbook. Zach Azzani made it known he's really putting in the work to learn the offense and everything around him. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to help that a ton. I also think he understands, like I'm not going to judge last year and any of those reports or those rumors off of this year because last year he went into it and maybe he didn't take that seriously. And I think by the end of the season, he realized like, this sucks. This is not fun. I should probably learn the playbook. And I think this year, he's coming in with a different attitude. Last year I kind of didn't get the oomph from Roman that I think we needed. I get the oomph right now. Like I could kind of see a little sense of urgency in him.
I can 100% concur with that. There's like a fire in seeing him because I remember how I spoke about him before I went to the final day of minicamp, and it was, I think, pretty standoffish about just sort of like where he was at.
Yeah.
But seeing him just like going through one day of practice, you're like, oh, okay, there's a determination here that maybe I was not considering before. And so that is the X factor for sure. But I mean, that still doesn't take away from me like where the Steelers sort of wide receiver room as a whole still sits. He can change that for sure. He has the most power to change it if his performance dictates it.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that one. All right, Egyptian Roughneck here. Ray Lewis versus James Harrison. Who you picking? This sucks because like my answer is Ray Lewis. I think he's possibly the greatest inside linebacker of all time. But like it sucks to say that. Like it sucks I wouldn't say that out loud. You know what I mean? Like if I was Ray Lewis and James Harrison were standing in front of me, sorry Ray, dude, but James terrifies me more than you do. And that's hard to say, but James terrifies me more than anybody in the whole world. My answer is James Harrison. But if we got to be realistic, like if I'm building a team and somebody said, pick your linebackers, I'm going Ray Lewis. Like I'm going Ray Lewis. And it stinks to say, but the guy's just, I'll say this though. I'm going Troy Polamalu over Ed Reed every single day. No questions asked.
150 million %.
I just think Ray's got the longevity, you know, that I don't think James had.
I am scared to answer this question. Is this strictly on the field? Then
yes, 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 yes.
Man,
we're going off the field, dude. It's James.
It's Debo. Yeah, I don't.
It's Debo all day, man.
So terrified of both men.
We don't need that.
Yeah, Ray Lewis, man. I mean, he's one of the greatest linebackers of all time. I love Debo, man, and that Super Bowl interception touchdown is like the greatest play ever. But I gotta take Ray Lewis there. If I'm trying to get in the trenches there on third down, I would love to have Debo rushing the quarterback, but I know Ray Lewis is going to meet that running back right at the line of scrimmage and just pop him right on his butt.
That's what I'm saying. Like I just Ray would be tough. He'd be tough to pick against. Brian Urlacher might be the only guy like of that generation that I'd look at and be like, man, I'd go him over him. You know, like and I'd still think that the argument leans Ray Lewis. I just think, you know, growing up, living in Pittsburgh, growing up in Pennsylvania, hating Ray Lewis for so long, like I would just pick Brian Urlacher because I'd just be like, yeah, it's close enough. We're fine. Where, you know. Ron here, if Will Howard turns out to be the guy, what position do the Steelers draft in the first rounds next year? Great question. I think they'd go wide receiver very early. I think corner would be on their list very early. I would say those are the top two. To be really honest, I think those would be the positions that the Steelers would lean so heavily into in the first round of next year's draft.
Yeah, I would just flip-flop those. I think cornerback would be the number one position that I would target, and then wide receiver. But I think that's a totally fair argument you make there. But yeah, if Will Howard's the guy, that would just completely shift all of their plans for 2026. So that'd be crazy. They need someone to match up with Joey Porter more in the long term than drafting someone who can be the number 2 in 2026 and then supplant DK Metcalf afterwards, in my opinion.
I agree. I think that in the first round, my argument for a wide receiver in the first round is you have your wide receiver 1, and that's what you're looking for in the first round of the NFL draft. And wide receiver has the biggest flop rate of any position drafted in the first round. So going corner, you kind of get yourself a guy that you feel really confident in. And then round 2, depending on who's available, obviously, but then round 2, you'd go wide receiver. But I agree with you. I think that's 1-2. And I mean, that sets the Steelers up so beautifully for the rest of the draft. All right. Dominic here. Noah, have you heard anything about Nick Harbor's spelling? Wild spelling. I know he is a 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year in both football and track. He screams Mike Tomlin Project. Love from Maryland. Shout out. He's also a wide receiver. I haven't heard about him, but right under my Chicago Diners here, we're going to write down Nick Harbor. Dom, I'm pretty sure, and I apologize if I got this one wrong, if I get this wrong, so I apologize, but I'm pretty sure you're the guy that turned me on to, I'm going to blank on his name, but he ended up in Seattle, I'm pretty sure, in the NFL draft out of USC. Dude was a stud, or maybe Utah State, I don't remember, but he was a stud. I have his name on. I have 75 sticky notes on this desk from notes that I take during the show, so it's here somewhere. But he was also a stud. So I appreciate this. And I will look into Nick Harbor. I don't know where he goes to school. Let's look him up here.
Best spelling of Nick maybe ever.
South Carolina wide receiver. Dude's a big boy.
He plays
6'5", 236 pounds, dude. This guy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. 2023 had 195 yards and a touchdown. Last year as a sophomore, he had 376 yards and 3 touchdowns. I kind of like him, to be honest.
That's cool.
6'5" is a project that Mike Tomlin could get behind for sure. I'll dive into some tape later, to be really honest. I also know SI's South Carolina beat writer, so I will I'll make a phone call down there as well and see what we could get rocking. I appreciate this one for sure. Artisanal Bully Kennel As a born and raised Italian from Chicago, you could visit my family's pizza place, but my personal favorite is Home Run Inn. Hold up. I need to know Home Run Inn Home Run Inn. I need to know the name of the family pizza place as well, because that's happening as well. Like, I'm not stopping at your family's pizza place and getting pizza. That's a definite. So toss that one in the chat for sure. Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm a big pizza. That's the thing about Chicago deep dish too. Like, that's a different experience to me, and I'm pumped. Chicago is Chicago is on my list for a long time of places that I hope the Steelers played. Boom, we're getting there. Boston was the other one. Unfortunately, you go to Boston or go to Ireland. 4 days later, I'm going to Ireland. So shout out my friends over in good old Boston. Egyptian Roughneck again. 5 rounds. Ray versus James. Better question. Going James. Oh, I'm going James Harrison all day.
Yes. Yeah.
Look it. Ray may have the track record, but James Harrison would kill somebody. And I firmly believe that, man. I firmly believe that. Like, James
I know Harrison, you didn't mean to be funny there.
I did a little bit.
Okay. Okay. Because that's hilarious. That is really good.
Look it. You haven't met James in person yet. Like, and he
just as a kid.
Yeah, it's totally different situation. He's terrifying, bro. Mm-hmm. He's terrifying. Even in his Hall of Honor stuff, like when he came and we were just interviewing him, like somebody asked him a dumb question. He just looked at him. He's like, "What the hell did you just ask me?" And I was like, "I'm out, bro. Like, I'm out. That's the end of me." I didn't even ask the question. Great question here. It's James all day.
For sure. That he's still in the most better shape than like half the league. Like, dude. I don't know I'm sure Ray Lewis is still like in good shape, but like James Harrison legit looks like he could like step into like a boxing ring right now and just like go 10 rounds.
Yes, with ease, actually. Like, he is still just as big as he once was. It is literally terrifying. Heard at practice, the Eagles cheat code is the tush push. Could the Steelers have a cheat code in Mount Washington if he was to run the ball on 4th and 1 or 2? So my thing with James Washington, because a lot of people bring this up to me, my thing with James Washington is I think he's too big in those circumstances where you want a guy like, there was a reason Refrigerator Perry was back there playing fullback. You know what I mean? Like, he's 6'4", 6'3", like a little raw. Like, Mount Washington is 6'8", and it doesn't take much to take out the knees. And that's where you're going to find yourself running into is he's not going to be able to get low enough running the football. That's why I'm against him playing fullback. He's not going to be able to get low enough running the football to create that momentum forward. Like, once somebody takes out his shins, it's over. He's just going down. And you bet, like, maybe he could reach, but I just don't think now on a goal line, if everybody could hit him and you could make sure nobody's there and he's just got to jump over the pile, I could see it taking a shot there. But my argument, and I get asked this a lot, it's a good question, if the Steelers should use him to run the football. I don't think that's the move. I think, if you wanted to do something like that, put Pat Freiermuth down there, because Pat Freiermuth will hit somebody. It's not like Pat's gonna, if Pat hits you, he's going forward. He's not going backwards. I think that could work really well. I think Connor Hayward should be able to work really well, but I think Darnell's too tall to run the football.
Yeah, and I've never seen anything like he never touched the ball like that in Georgia. So there's nothing really that I would love it if you could just give that ginormous human the football and just let him just like knock over everybody. I don't think that really translates to what he can do on a football field. But I mean, hey, I do think the tush push comparison is totally like, I wouldn't mind seeing him be the one like pushing said tush.
Oh, no. Yeah, yeah.
I mean?
You want to put him
behind him? Sure. Yeah.
Dude, could you imagine Darnell back there and just like literally grabbing Aaron Rodgers and just pushing him over the line?
Like the opening of Lion King. You could just lift him straight up.
It'd be so awesome. It'd be like that was when they sit on the knees and just hit the blocking sled. He should just do that. Just stand behind him, go and just throw him over and just see what happens. Fantastic. Shout out to Hollywood 913 or 31931. James Washington, man. We all miss him, dude. I just miss him sometimes. That's why he came out of my mouth. I just miss him. Brawdog here. Start bench cut. James Ferrier, Lawrence Timmons, Ryan Shazier. This is a damn good one. And this stinks because I love Ryan. I think he's a good dude. I'm starting James Ferrier without question. I think I'm benching Lawrence Timmons. I think he's one of the most underrated Steelers in the history of the organization. And then I love Ryan. I think he could have done incredible, crazy things, but he was just getting onto that like superstar path when he got hurt. And it's the most brutal blow in Steelers history, maybe. Yeah. But I would start James, I would bench Lawrence Timmons, and I'd cut Ryan Shazier.
Yeah, man, it genuinely hurts my heart because I just like it makes me sad to think about what happened to Ryan Shazier and just as a human like that. Yes. And he is just like an incredible case of resilience of the human spirit. So like shout out Ryan Shazier. Like that man is an incredible human. Unfortunately, he just did not play long enough compared to Lawrence Timmons and James Ferrier for it to really be a fair comparison. So yeah, I mean, James Ferrier is absolutely the starter, one of the best inside linebackers in Steelers history.
Yeah.
And I mean, Lawrence Timmons, man, I have a very soft spot in my heart for him because of the couple of games that he was just puking on the field down in Miami and just still making tackles. That man was a tackling machine. He'd be like throwing up real quick, and then he'd just take down the running back. That is incredible. It was the grossest and most hilarious thing I'd ever watch on the football field.
Yes.
And you got to keep him around. So I'm going to start.
He also might have killed somebody on a field. Shout out to Powell.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Right. Everybody forgets that until you say it. And then you go like, that was murder on a football field. That was the first murder we ever saw. That was crazy. That was the craziest hit I have ever seen to date, to be honest with you. I
was watching that with one of my college roommates. Shout out Cello if he's watching this or listens to this. And I remember we paused the TV and took a picture and we were like, this man's dead. We just watched this guy die on the field. That's crazy.
I was standing downstairs at a buddy's house who was a Dolphins fan, and it happened, and I screamed, holy shit, so loud that he thought something, like he came running out of the stairs. He's like, what? I was like, I just watched a murder, man. Like I just watched somebody die. It was crazy. Great question. Egyptian Roughneck, once again, how many sacks would this group get? TJ, Cam, Aaron Donald, Trey Hendrickson, Chris Jones. My Madden front five. Your Madden front five is ridiculous. This 65, 70 sacks. These. The Steelers did 45 last season, 65, 70 sacks with
record-breaking stuff.
Record-breaking stuff. Aaron Donald, Cam Hayward, TJ Watt alone, unbelievable. You add Chris Jones and Trey Hendrickson on the other side of that. I mean, I don't even know what you do there. Like you can't. There is not an offensive line. Who's good enough to
Has there ever been an NFL team that's had 5 players record double-digit sacks in a season? There's no way, right?
No,
like that seems unheard of.
This
would be it. This would be the squad.
Yeah, with these actually, it'd be like TJ would finish with like 11 sacks, and people would be like, "Bad year." Be like, no, no. Aaron Donald's got 11, Cam's got 10, Trey Hendrickson's got 15, and Chris Jones has 11. And you're like, all right, maybe good year. Maybe good year. Keeping it trucking here. Lindsay, is Minka worth $18 million, especially if he doesn't improve this season? I think at the end of this year, if Minka isn't better than what he's been, no. The answer to me is no. I think at that point you have to move on. I think there's an argument to be made about moving on this offseason. They're not going to, and we're too far past the point of moving on. I think it's a bad move now, but there was an argument to be made in April. At the end of next year, the end of this year, if he doesn't have a year, like a year, I think the argument's pretty strong that you got to move on from Minka Fitzpatrick.
Yeah. And this is why this year is just so critical and why Noah and I have chatted about this maybe being a bounce back year and sort of how they're trying to set him up to improve because there is something missing right now. There is something in his performance that is lacking. I think he has some expectations to live up to regarding his salary. But yeah, I'm so willing to give him the benefit of the doubt in 2025 to have that bounce back year first.
Yeah, I agree. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. He looked really good in minicamp. we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. All right, here some housekeeping stuff. Noah, we are coming up to camp this year with my sons and grandsons from New York City, coming to see Pat, Caleb, or Pat. Okay, I'm guessing Caleb Williams, Will Johnson. We'll look for you. We'll look for you, pal. Great job. Sky's the limit. Keep grinding, pal. Appreciate you. Sorry, I struggled with that one. Look for me. You guys see me at camp, dude. Give me a shout out. Jacob will be there. Give him a shout out. We'll be chilling on the sideline. So, yell down. It's a blast. Kaboli always gets real jealous. It makes me happy. So, you know what I'm saying? Well, don't be afraid to say hi.
Sweaty.
So it's Pittsburgh
so
is either Latrobe is either 100 degrees or raining, sometimes both, sometimes multiple different things per day. So shout out. Big Al here. Could we trade for Jaden Reed? I don't know if Jaden Reed's on the table. I'm not
my concern.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not against Jaden Reed, to be totally honest, but I also think that, again, it's early. Like, I don't know if Jaden Reed, I'll Google it, see if he's got some issues going on or some rumors surrounding him. But if I'm calling Green Bay, to be honest, I'm calling about Wicks and Dobbs, and I'm saying, hey, do either of these guys work? And I think that you have a better opportunity to land one of those guys because Jaden Reed was kind of becoming a part of that last year, like a strong part of it. So if I had to guess, I want to say he will eventually be on the table. I think everybody in Green Bay is going to be on the table, but I also think that I'm going Romeo Dobbs before I go Jaden Reed. Do you feel different?
I agree 100% about Dobbs over Jaden Reed right now, and I do really think that Green Bay would be more reluctant to part with Jaden Reed right now than a Romeo Dobbs. So maybe that's part of the reason why I prefer Dobbs over Reed right now. But yeah, the Green Bay wide receiver situation is so crazy. The fact that there are so many like 800-yard receivers on that team. No one knows who's safe. No one knows who's the number 1 wide receiver, who the number 4 wide receiver is, who's getting cut. It's like pandemonium over there.
Yeah.
So it could play in the Steelers' favor. I just think they have to be very patient.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that one. A couple more housekeeping things here. I'm heading to Pittsburgh for the Steelers-Packers game this year. Can't wait. When is a good time to get to the stadium? I'd get to the stadium. They set off the fireworks about a half hour before. I would make sure I'm in the stadium at least a half hour before the game because you want to get concessions. You want to snag a beer or some food or whatever and get to your seats. You want to be there for introductions, obviously, especially for a fact Aaron's getting called out of the tunnel during that game. For a fact they're going offense. So I would say about a half hour before is a good time to get into the stadium, but get down there early. You want to be at the North Shore at least an hour, 2 hours before the game, hanging out, eating some food. It's a party on the North Shore. The Steelers have stuff going on. The fans have stuff going on. Like, get there early for sure. Get there early. Sam's got a fun one here. Do you believe a second Lombardi would help Rodgers' 2028 vice presidential run, or would it elevate it to presidential run? I'll ask you this, and we'll keep it trucking here. If Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl for the Steelers, you think Pittsburgh would just be in the presidential run or whatever? It'd just say, like, whatever color he is, red, he'd probably be independent. So whatever color that is, it would just be like Pennsylvania would be one color and then Pittsburgh would be the Aaron Rodgers color.
Probably. Yeah. I think, well, Allegheny County, not to make this a political podcast, but Allegheny County votes pretty blue, but every other surrounding county,
it's red.
Aaron Rodgers. Yeah.
To be honest, I think we might lean. I think the city itself would just be like, yeah, screw it, dude. At this point, I'm tired of this. Just Aaron Rodgers.
If he could bring us a second Lombardi, if he could bring us him number 7, he could run this country. That's all I'm saying.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. All right, couple more here as we close it out. Heard of practice again. What grade would you give the Steelers roster last year, and what's the grade this year? Last year, I think there were holes, big ones. I think wide receiver was worse than this year. I think quarterback was worse than this year. I think running back was worse than this year. I think the offensive line was worse than this year. I think the defensive line was worse than this year. And to be honest with you, I think corner was worse than this year. So to be even more honest, I think I think safety was worse because I think Juan Thornhill's a great addition. So I would say last year, maybe I'd give him a B minus. I would say for the Steelers this year, I'd go, if Beanie or Dante Kent works out and the offensive line, which we're just judging roster, I think the offensive line has put the pieces together. And this is the first year I look at them as like, there it is. There's the group. See if it works. If you can figure out your wide receiver, I think you have an A- on your hands, but I think I'll give him a B+ where we sit right there. I think I'm going B- last year, maybe a C+, to be honest with you. I'm thinking a B+ this year, where we currently sit.
I'm a little harsher on the roster grade for last year. I would have put it at like a C-. Like it just wasn't that impressive. Again, more to the point of like the fact that they made the playoffs. More credit to the coaching staff and the players that are on the team. This year, I feel comfortable around a B-. Yes. But I think there's tangible improvements on many different positions. There's more depth at several positions, and there is still a chance that they will add to this roster, further solidifying the depth in other positions before training camp even begins. So I think they're in a much better place in the 2025 roster than they were with 2024's.
I agree. I think that's the easiest answer is they're head and shoulders above where they were a year ago in terms of holes that they were missing. Maddie here, what is one mistake we made this offseason, one X factor for the season, and one hot take from each of you? Loaded question here. One mistake that the Pittsburgh Steelers made this offseason. I don't know if they've made one yet, to be honest. Like, do you have a mistake that they made this offseason?
I think their one mistake is letting this negotiation process with TJ Watt drag on for far too long.
That's a good one.
I think because it is hard to criticize. Like, it's not like there's like a glaringly huge contract given out where you're like, they're gonna eat shit on this in a year.
Yeah, no.
Nothing like that. Solid like depth additions. Aaron Rodgers is a good addition. Great draft. So I would say that, like, letting this negotiation drag on is definitely a huge part. I think X factor, if I could just roll on here, is going to be probably Minka Fitzpatrick. And if he lives up to that salary, and if he can return to that elite status. And a hot take is that he does not.
Okay. I like that. I agree with you with the TJ. That's where you messed up. Where the Steelers messed up. You pay him last year. Even if you still pay him $40 million, if you pay him 39, there's no conversation. It's done and over with. Everybody's happy. 2, the X factor. I think I'm going to go Joey Porter Jr. I think Joey Porter Jr. is a make or break piece to this team this year. You got to look good, my friend. You had a bad year last year. Got to come back and be that guy. This is a massive year for Joey Porter Jr. One hot take from me, Aaron Rodgers is in the conversation for MVP by the time we hit week 10. That is my one hot take for the season. Now, I'm telling you guys, if Russ was in the conversation last year, Aaron's in the conversation this year. Shout out to Macaroni Salad. Have a great weekend, fellas. Appreciate you, my friend. Go enjoy those vodka Sonics, and we'll finish it off with one here from Nate Moore. Can we get a history of Jacob's professional career? Dude is an absolute monster. I think a lot of people will be surprised to know that your long list of long lists does not come from from covering the Pittsburgh Steelers. Go ahead, give us a little rundown, my friend.
Yeah. My professional career, before I was a full-time like reporter, journalist person, I worked in professional theater.
Yes.
I worked for a bunch of professional theaters in the downtown Pittsburgh area for probably like 4 or 5 years. And then I was like a part-time contributor for the Steelers site. And I've been covering the NHL and like the NHL draft since I came out of college. I've written for places like the Hockey News before. I wrote for a website called Inside the Penguins that Noah was the publisher of. And then I write for SI's website called Breakaway on SI, which is one of their NHL sites. And then I've been covering the Steelers.
This will be season 2.
Season 2. Yeah.
Season 2.
So my professional career is not as deep in journalism as it is in professional theater. and maybe that won't surprise people when you listen to
gonna
some of
say,
the references I make.
I think people are sitting here going, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Jacob's a stud,
Yeah.
man. We knew it from the jump. We're pumped
Appreciate the
about it.
compliment, Nate, and from Noah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, guys. With that said, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcast. Please, please, please go to Apple Podcasts, hit that download button, and give us a 5-star review. I'm telling you, we're hitting. This is the end of June. We got 6 months to get back up on that top 10 list. I'm very pumped for it. I think we can do it. And as always, find all of mine and Jacob's work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. With that said, I hope everybody has a beautiful weekend and a warm weekend here in the city of Pittsburgh. Enjoy it. We'll be back on Monday. Peace.